Oh, hello. It's great to see you today. We had some nice Dallas weather for Christmas time. It was 80 degrees out, very festive, and I thought I would sit down and go ahead and have a traditional Christmas snack. In this case, it's a can of Shiner Bock beer and a medium-sized bag of Lay's potato chips. What? What do you mean that's not a Christmas snack? Of course it's a Christmas snack. Everybody knows that you eat chips and beer at Christmas time. Oh, I see. I forgot you came from California. Okay, so I guess since you're here, let me go ahead and just give you a little Texas lesson on the night that Rico saved Santa. And this will all make sense at the end. In fact, actually, given that you're old enough, I think that we can even go ahead and skip to the advanced version, the night that Rico saved Santa's ass. This is a story about Texas and a story about how disgusting and vile fruitcake is. To begin with, have you ever wondered why people give each other fruitcake for Christmas? Well, once upon a time, long, long ago, 1976 to be exact, Santa had a very bad night, which turned into a great friendship. People giving each other some presents. You see, back in those days, vehicles weren't nearly as reliable as they are today. They had a tendency to break down, and unfortunately for Santa, his sleigh was no exception. He found himself stuck on the shoulder of a Texas highway in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve. In spite of having 8 magic reindeer, Rudolph was sitting out this year in a contract dispute, that sleigh wasn't moving one more inch. Without any other options, Santa started walking towards the closest town. As he was walking, a truck came along the road and pulled over as it came near. "Well, howdy, Santa. Do you need a ride?" asked the man in the truck. It's a nice man in a green truck. Very exciting. Santa was relieved that he wouldn't have to walk all the way into town, so he gladly accepted. Santa was blissfully unaware of the Texas killing fields south of Houston where bodies were being dumped on a monthly basis. It was a simpler time. As they drove into town, Santa found out that his new friend's name was Rico. Rico was a roughneck who worked in the West Texas oil fields, and he was on his way back to Athens to visit family when he came upon the distressed jolly old elf. Rico and Santa made their way into the nearest town and tried to find a mechanic who would come out and take a look at the sleigh. But it was late on Christmas Eve and there was nobody around. Rico said to Santa, "Now, I'm no engineer, but I've got a toolbox in the back of old Greenie here. I guess we better head back and take a look at your sleigh." So they turned back around and headed south again. Well, they drove to the spot where the sleigh had been, and then they drove right past that spot, and it was another 5 miles before Rico pointed out that he was pretty sure the sleigh was north of that DW's billboard. So he pulled a U-turn and headed north. And again, they came to the spot where they had left the sleigh, but the sleigh was missing. There's no sleigh there. "I don't understand," exclaimed Santa. "It was all here, 8 reindeer, 1 sleigh, and a giant bag of gifts." "Gifts. I think I know what happened," said Rico. "It was the cartels, wasn't it?" said Santa, with a hint of anger in his voice. "I knew I should have stayed above 20,000 feet when I flew over Columbia." "No, Santa, the cartels don't work on Christmas Eve. In fact, the only people who work on Christmas Eve are our tireless civil servants. I bet that while we were poking around town, one of the local constables came out and towed your sleigh. I suppose we'll have to go back to town and look at the impound lot. My cousin Jeff once had 53 unpaid parking tickets out here, so I know right where it is." So they hopped into the truck and headed north again. I do like this picture of Santa crying. It was pretty cool. And you can see my assistant, Justice, trying to help in the storytelling experience. When they made it to the impound lot, there they were. 8 reindeer, 1 sleigh, and a giant bag of toys. All on the other side of a 12-foot tall razor wire fence with a massive padlock securing the gate. They looked around the lot, but there wasn't anybody there. "I guess the constable went out to look for more abandoned sleighs on the road," mused Santa. "Now we're really sunk." But Rico was from Texas, and he wasn't about to quit. Say, Santa, I think there's a little magic left in this here Ford. I bet between old Greenie and those reindeer, we just might be back in business. All we need to do is to get the reindeer unhitched from the sleigh. Santa looked over the fence and shouted, Donner, Blitzen, haben Sie den Kabelbaum von Schlitten? Something like that. The aftmost reindeer looked at each other, they shuffled their black back legs, they wiggled their hips a bit, and they stepped away from the sleigh. Then all 8 wonderful beasts trotted forward and into the air, over the fence, and back down where Rico and Santa were standing. Well, I'll be danged if that wasn't the most amazing thing I've ever seen, said Rico. And he'd spent 2 weeks in Juarez once, so he'd seen a thing or two. It took a few minutes to rig up the harness to old Greenie, and they were just about ready to go when it dawned on Santa, oh no, we don't have any gifts. And sure enough, the big bag of toys was still sitting in the sleigh. Say, I know a guy who might be able to help us, said Rico. And they headed over to a local bakery where Rico politely knocked on the door and explained the situation to the owner. I have just the thing, said the baker. There's this cement-like blob with chunks of fruit in it. The blob tastes like wood and the fruit tastes like chemicals. What could be better? That's perfect, said Santa. He was getting a bit desperate at this point, watching the time tick away. So, with a little fruitcake and a lot of Santa magic, they loaded up old Greenie and headed out into the night. Santa turned to Rico and said, Thank you, Rico. I'm very glad that we've had this chance encounter tonight. Rico replied, I don't know if it was chance. Let's call it fate. After all, you've been doing this job for so long and there are so many more people in the world. Maybe the cosmos knew that you could use a little bit of help. Santa thought about it for a moment and said, Yes, I think that's just so. Well, I'll tell you what, Santa, said Rico. How about this? Every year I'll help out with your deliveries in exchange for a bag of potato chips and a 6-pack of Shinerbach. That's a deal, said Santa. And they shook hands. And here we have them taking off in old Greenie with the reindeer. The end. For real, this time. Well, now you know not to be so culturally ignorant to not understand that Shinerbach and potato chips is 100% a Christmas snack. Hope to see you soon.